Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you a page in my art journal book once more. This is page 6 and I'm going to be using this tutorial as part of my audition for the Graphic 45 Design Team 2015. Now if you've been watching my videos you know that I've auditioned for them before. Perhaps third time's the charm, you never know. Keep your fingers crossed for me anyway, and I'm going to be showing you how to use the scrapbooking papers in your art journal pages. Most of you know that if you've been watching this series that I'm combining scrapbooking with art journaling techniques and mixed media techniques. So this is a page still waiting for a photograph of my mum to finish it off, and the Disney page still awaiting some Disney photographs and journaling, maybe next time. This one's completely finished though, as you can see. In amongst all the waves I've created tags and I'm journaling about our family's love of the beach. So I'm really looking at this book as being a cross between a scrapbook and an art journal book. So I'm looking at ways of trying to increase your capacity within the page. So creating pockets like I have here to journal about our pets. This one is still to be done about a couple of pets that we had as children. And this one is all about the things that I resolved to do this year. So I'm definitely going to put in a little tag in this pocket to say that I'm auditioning once more for Graphic 45. I'd like to put one in there to say that I succeed, but we'll see whether I do or I don't. So this page, as I said, is all about using your papers in with your art journaling. So I'm going to be using Bohemian Bazaar because it's gorgeous and bright and sunny, and that's how I wanted to feel today. I wanted a bit of spring in my journal, and I'm going to be using it to document some of the flowers that I've got growing in my garden throughout the year. So I'm going to make little tags with flower pictures, and I've been removing some of the pages of the book because obviously it's starting to get quite bulky. So I've been quite severe this time, and I've got these two or these sections of pages which I'll be able to use later on in other projects. So I'm keeping them safe, and I've cut out enough pages so that I can create some pockets on the inside of my next page. This is page 6 in my art journal. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is sticking some of the pages together. This gives each of my individual sections more strength, and also it covers up anything perhaps that went on the previous page. So I've got this little turnover for the flap of the envelope that's on the page previous to this one. So I just want to cover that up, and I'm going to do that by sandwiching 2 pages together. So it's worth taking a bit of time and making sure you get all of those edges so that you don't get any little pieces coming away as your art journal is flicked through and thumbed through in years to come. So I'm just spending a little bit of time making sure I get a really good adhesion between the pages that I'm sticking together. So making sure that I keep my little segments that I'm saving to make some more pockets for this page, and then this one will be the back page of this little layout. And again, just taking my time making sure that I stick everything together. And today I'm using Mod Podge, and it's a matte Mod Podge in order to glue everything together and perhaps glue papers down onto my spread. As I said, I wanted this page to turn into somewhere to store photographs of my garden throughout the year. So I'm going to be sort of making little tags out of flower photographs that I'll take throughout the year, and I can just tuck them into the little pockets that I'm going to be creating. So I'm starting out by just sort of deciding on the depth of the pocket. It has to be wide enough so that I can tuck a little tag underneath and it will stay in place and won't keep falling out of my journal. And I'm going to be using my ruler throughout, so I'm going to be tearing my pages just to get a little bit of a distressed edge on everything that I put into place. So this is the narrower pocket, and then I've got a slightly wider pocket, and I've got the same layout on both pages. So I've been thinking about the fact that my photographs are going to be quite colourful, hopefully, if I get plenty of flowers in my garden. So therefore I'm just going to go with the blues and the greens and a little touch of yellow for this page, and that way my tags will stand out against the background. So I'm just going through and seeing which papers I'm going to be using on the pockets, because my pockets are going to be covered in the papers, and then I'm going to do a little design and a little bit of paper applique on the sort of pages that you'll be able to see either side of the pocket. So just measuring up, and that's when I decided, no, I've decided to go with tearing, Helen, so put that guillotine away, and I'm going to be just marking the width of my page and then using my ruler and tearing along the ruler. What you need to do is really make sure you keep the pressure on while you're tearing, otherwise it will move and you won't get a straight line. As I stick these papers in place to cover my pockets, and I'm just leaving a little bit of an edge of the book page showing, because I like my pages still to have some indication that this was an old book that I've used to put these pages together. So as I carry on covering these pockets, I just thought I'd tell you why I love Graphic 45. It started quite a few years ago now, and I bought a piece of paper called bee's knees, as it was covered in cherries, and I have told you about this before. I don't know why it's called bee's knees. It comes from the Times Nouveau papers, which have recently been reissued, so I'm going to treat myself to another piece of paper because I've been treasuring it for quite some time now, and I'm down to my last little segment of it, and I've used it on lots of different little things, and I've really made it go the distance. But one of the things that I really like about Graphic 45 are the prints. The prints are really, really versatile. Much as I loved some of those really fancy pages with all the lovely artwork, it's really, for me, the prints that go the distance. They're the things that I'm using right down to the end. I can use the tiniest of pieces on my scrapbook layouts or my cards, and I just find them really, really versatile. And the other thing is the collections mix and match. So you might have a few leftover pieces of one collection. You're sure that they're going to bring out other collections that you can mix and match in with those pieces that you may have left. So now I'm measuring the second, or measuring for the second pocket, and this one is going to be covering two pockets in one go. So I'm just creating the fold that will be the centre of the book, and I've used the opposite side of the paper to create the second pocket. So again, I'm just distressing the edges slightly, and that is going to sit there. You can already see the colour scheme of my page developing and how well these prints all work together. So now the only thing that I would say about when you're covering the centre section of your book is you want to make sure that that fold is well stuck down into the centre of your book, and I keep manipulating the page as I go because I don't want that fold to come away from that centre section. So I'm really making sure that everything is stuck down well, and these little leaves will be the things that form my pockets. So now I'm just watering down a little bit of gesso. This is the Ranger gesso, and I am just adding some water just to thin it down a little bit because this is quite a thick gesso, and then I'm just going to use it to go across the page. I don't really need to go underneath the pocket. Now gesso does two things for me. One, it's going to stop any painting that I do on top of it leaking through to the designs underneath. It gives me a good base on which to work, and it just knocks the print on the book page back ever so slightly. Now because I'm keeping this book page all nice and bright and sunny, it also gives me a slightly whiter background, so the colours that I put on top of it will be truer and won't be sort of dulled by the cream of the book page. And whilst I'm having a little think about the little design that I'm going to do on each side of the page, I'm just having a look at my Graphic 45 papers. I was trying to decide whether to fussy cut some of these flowers and use them as the flowers on my page, but because I want to stick with those blues and greens and yellows, I think what I'm going to do is use some of these designs as the centres of my flowers. So I'm just punching some of them out with my 1/2 inch circle punch. Now, lucky me, at Christmas I got a box of Pitt Big Brush Markers by Faber-Castell from my lovely mum, and I'm going to be trying them out to create a background on my page. So the first thing that I really need to do, and you really need to do if you're going to use your markers, is make sure that background is really dry. And the gesso allows me to smudge my pens. It gives me a little bit of time as the ink sits on top of the gesso to take my finger and smudge the pen into the background. So I want to create a little scene on each side of my book page, which is like a spring or a summer sky. And so I'm just going to take my marker, and you can see I'm really just scribbling, really, I suppose, the pen onto the page and then rubbing out the pen with my finger to create a smooth background. And I want to create a little cloud effect in the sky. So I'm just taking a baby wipe while the pen still hasn't dried completely and giving myself a fluffy cloud by removing some of the Pitt pen and blending some of that pen out. So that's going to be the theme of how I work on this page. So I'm going to speed things up, and I'll talk to you as I go along creating a summer sky and a grassy meadow. So I originally wanted to get my hands on these pens because I've seen them used to make shadows around collage pieces on pages, and I really thought that was a neat effect. So this is sort of an extended version of that. Instead of just creating little shadows and smudging them out with my fingers, I'm actually just using the pen as almost a paint, and then using my finger to make sure it blends around the page. Now you might think that at the end of this I ended up with permanent blue or green fingers, but I didn't. I'm not quite sure how it works, but once these inks are dry on your page they are permanent, but they didn't stay permanent on my fingers. They really cleaned up quite easily. So you might be thinking, oh, I don't really want to be getting this blue all over my fingers, but literally it was gone. As soon as I'd washed my hands, it washed away. And you can see that I've chosen colours that really go with these Graphic 45 papers, and I'm just working on the sky section, creating some clouds and just getting the depth of colour that I want before I move on to the grass. So slightly different technique for the grass. I'm just thinking of blades of grass sort of in an abstract way, and then I'm blending a yellow pen and a sort of darker green pen, and that's giving me the lime colour that's on the Bohemian Bazaar paper that I've used for the pockets. So a little bit of the blue that I've used on the sky also helps blend back to that colour that's reflected in the paper. So because I want obviously to be able to blend this, I'm working in little sections at a time, so I'm just scribbling up and down to mimic the blades of grass in my little field here, and I am then just blending them out with my finger. And then I'm going to repeat the whole process to create some grass on the other side. And you can see, again, I didn't really need to go all the way along my page, but I have done so, and I could have just drawn a line where the edge of the pocket was and just created on the edge of the page. And the more confident that I'm getting that the pen isn't going to dry on me, the more area that I work on before I start to smudge out the background with my finger. So as these pens are very new to my collection, it's still a bit of a learning curve for me, and that's the beauty of sort of mixed media work. You can use all sorts of different products. It's just a matter of learning what works where. So what kind of surface do I need in order to be able to blend these pens out, for instance. I could just use them for straight colouring if I wanted to. And you can see I'm using a darker pen here rather than get my inks out to create a sort of frame around the edge of my page. I just want to darken things up slightly. It always helps to draw the eye into the design if you've got a slightly darker frame on the outside. And as I got to the end of my little summer or spring scene, I just felt it was a little bit dark compared to my papers. So I'm giving them a good old blast with my heat gun just to make sure those pip pens are permanent and are not going to run when I give them a coat of gesso, just to knock them back a little bit. So I'm just testing them with my fingers, making sure nothing's moving around, and I'm happy that all my work is going to stay put before I do the next thing. So I'm just drying things off, making sure everything is heat set, and then I'm just watering down a little bit of gesso to create a wash, and that will just lighten everything up. And so once I've laid down a little layer of watered down gesso, I'm just going to blot off the excess with a piece of kitchen roll. And you can see that that's had the effect of just lightening that design slightly, and it goes much better with the papers now. And then repeating the process on the opposite page. By using the kitchen roll and a sort of dry brushing technique, I'm also creating more texture on top of my design, which goes with this kind of slightly distressed look that I'm going for. So now I'm going to use my Graphic 45 prints for some paper piecing. Now that's another thing that these little tiny prints are great for. If you're using stamping sort of images that you can paper piece, these papers are going to work time and time again. And I'm going to be using them freehand. I'm not going to be stamping my flowers, I'm going to be drawing my flowers. So I'm just taking a couple of strips of the paper off to just line down the edge of my page. So this was a little bit fiddly because I want them nice and narrow, but I still want that fluffy edge from ripping my papers. And I've got two little strips that I haven't torn in half, and I just wanted them to edge my page. Again, sort of just balancing the design and bringing some of those papers onto the outside edge of my page. So switching between my mediums here, this time I'm using the Ranger Matte Multi-Medium and making sure everything's dry. And the reason that I've done that is because I want, again, to be using my pip pens on top of my design to outline my little paper pieced flowers. So I'm just sealing everything else that's underneath with the matte medium. So now I'm just adding a little bit of glue along the top and bottom edges of those paper strips to form pockets. So I'm using my Cosmic Shimmer glue and then just going along the edges of each of those strips and forming them into pockets. So as this page is all about the garden, I've got a lovely garden quote: "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow," and that was said by Audrey Hepburn. I know that because Pinterest told me so. So I'm going to go completely freehand. I could have stamped my title, but I think I'm just going to do everything on this page by hand, and therefore I'm going to do some lettering. My handwriting isn't the best in the world, but if you just style it up a little bit, it doesn't make any difference, and you can just pretend however your letters turned out that that was the font you were looking for. So I was trying to decide whether to use a grey or a black pen on this layout, and I'm going to go for complete contrast, and I'm going to use a black pen. If you want ideas for fonts and letterings, there's plenty of inspiration on the internet. This I'm just making it up as I go along. And actually, believe it or not, this is actually at full speed. So you can see that I'm a bit of a slow writer, really, because it looks quite normal, doesn't it? I think it's because I'm being a little bit tentative to make sure that I don't make a mistake at this stage when I've done all the work that I've done so far. But when you're doing something like art journaling, it really is easy. If I really did mess it up, I could just paint over the whole lot with gesso and start again. I don't really want to do that, but the option is there should I need it. It's funny sometimes the things that pop into your head when you're editing a video, and I've just noticed that I am wearing rather unglamorous sleeves today, considering I'm using this as an audition video. Perhaps I should have chosen something a little bit more glamorous. Mind you, I've only got paint on it, so at least my grey fleecy is keeping me warm. It's a little bit chilly in my craft room, and I am crafting in an old top of my husband's, so I hope my page is a little bit more glamorous than my sleeves today. So now I'm just using the same paper as I've used on that centre pocket, and I'm just freehand cutting some leaf shapes. And this design for this page is actually really quite easy to achieve, so I hope I've broken down the steps enough to tempt you to give this kind of thing a go. The pockets are quite easy to create, as was the background, and now I'm showing you how to get really great results with some lovely patterned papers and create a cheery spring set of flowers on your pages. So lovely easy shapes to cut. Now I'm using the centres that I punched out from the other Bohemian Bazaar paper, and then I'm just sketching some really childlike flowers around those centres, ready to add to my page. You'll notice from the video, although it's speeded up, that I actually don't move my scissors very much. I'm moving the opposite hand and turning the paper as I close the scissors along the line of the flower. Here it is slowed down. You can see I'm really just moving that paper, twizzling that paper around each of those petals, and it really does make it easier to cut things out if you try to do that rather than manipulate your scissors. So everything's cut out, ready to stick into place. Now I don't have to be too fussy about how I apply the medium, because it's going to dry transparent and it's going to dry matte. So I coat my page first, and then I put down my paper piece, and then I coat again on top of the paper, and that way you get really good adhesion and you're less likely to get any pieces of paper missed, particularly with these thin leaves. So coat your paper first and then stick your paper piece down and add another layer of adhesive over the top. So I think I've switched adhesives again, and this time I'm using a Finnabar multi-medium, I think it's a 3D gel that I'm using to stick these down. So I'm product hopping a little bit here, and just trying to create a pleasing little display of sunny flowers across the bottom of my page. And then once everything's thoroughly dry, everything is stuck down in place, then you're ready just to outline the pieces that either you've cut the line off of, like some of the petals on my flowers. I've taken off the black line, or I didn't have a black line on my leaves, so I'm just adding that in. So if you'd have stamped these flowers, you'd have the black edge in place already, but I'm adding it in and drawing around those leaves. And suddenly everything becomes part of the page. So as well as outlining the lovely flowery design, I'm also going to just bring a little bit of that black into the pockets by adding a little stitched detail along the edges. I'm just doing a little dash and dot right along the edge of the paper. So I'm kind of hoping that my garden is going to look like this year, with these gorgeous, lovely, sunny yellow flowers. And I'm just adding the centres from the paper that I punched the circles from. So again, out with some adhesive and sticking those flower centres into place. And again, making sure everything's dry, and then I'm just going to go around the actual centres of some of the flowers that I missed earlier. So that's it from me. I hope that I've tempted you to have a look through all your lovely scrapbooking and card making papers and use them in your art journal. And there are plenty of other ways that you could be using papers like these gorgeous Bohemian bazaar papers from Graphic 45. So I'm ready to take some photographs in my garden this year and tuck those little pictures into the pockets as a record of my garden. So I'm just making sure that everything closes down and that my pages aren't bulging my book out too far. And that is the end of this video, which forms part of my Graphic 45 audition. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and of course that you wish me luck in my audition. I will be posting a link at the end of this video so you can see the whole audition and the pieces that I've created using more of these gorgeous Graphic 45 papers. So until next time, don't forget, if you like this video, to hit the share button, the subscribe button, the like button, and I hope that I've inspired you to use gorgeous pattern papers from Graphic 45 in some of your art journaling pages. So I've taken my journal out into the garden for these last couple of shots. You can see it's sunny out there, and you can see just about at the top of the page that I do have some sunny yellow flowers in my garden. I better take a photograph of those to include in this page. Until next time, thank you for watching. So if you want to check out some more Graphic 45 goodness, don't forget to click on this link. This will take you back to my blog and to my Graphic 45 Design Team 2015 audition. And I'm going to add a couple more links for gorgeous graphic 45ness. This was a recipe book that I created for my 2013 audition, and the next link is for a page that I created for the same audition. It's quite good fun to look back on the actual techniques that I've used to put the videos together, but you can see that the graphic 45 paper still looks fab. This was another card that I created using graphic 45 papers. This is a double slider card and it's a full tutorial. And then last but not least, another mixed media piece, and again a lovely sunshiny piece, making the most of those lovely patterned papers. So as well as being able to click on the link for my full Graphic 45 playlist, you could also check out the Graphic 45 link or label on the left hand side of my blog if you want to see some more projects that I've been making using these fabulous papers. So don't forget to wish me luck and keep everything crossed as I audition for the 2015 Graphic 45 design team. I'm going to keep everything crossed. I'm not sure how I'm going to get on with my crafting for this week, but I'm sure I'll be back soon sharing another video with you here on my YouTube channel.